I could not imagine what women go through emotionally. I had to become someone who I've never been in my life. My mom is there and I'm just like, Ma, what do I do? She's like, tell that doctor what you want. I had to learn the very hard lesson that although she looks like Superwoman, my wife is not Superwoman, and that help is not a suggestion, it is a requirement.
Welcome to Baby Bump and Business, the podcast exploring what it really looks like to build a business and a family at the same time. I'm your host, B. Troford Wilson, photographer, educator, and first-time mom, sharing the real unfiltered journey of parenthood and entrepreneurship. In honor of Father's Day, this special series highlights fathers in the creative and entrepreneurship space, diving into their experiences with fatherhood, providing, partnership, and pursuing purpose while raising a family. Because this journey isn't just about the moms, it's about the families we're building together. So let's get into it. Today's guest is Joshua Dwain. Joshua is an award-winning photographer, director, and content producer based in Brooklyn, New York. He specializes in weddings, editorial, portrait, and commercial photography. He enjoys documenting life, relationships, and special moments for his clients. He believes that the camera is a tool that is used to capture authentic stories and evoke long-lasting memories and emotions. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, B. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, yes. So I want to dive right into it. You and your wife are business partners. I want to
Yes.
start there because as
Okay.
creatives, we're difficult human beings. I'm not even going to lie. So what was that like to build a partnership from going from just being a couple to life partners to becoming business partners? What was that transition like for you guys?
You know, it's funny. There wasn't much of a transition at all, to be honest with you. We started dating when I was sort of like figuring my business out. And I had a day job at the time and I really didn't have any time to see my wife. I would shoot weddings on weekends, a typical time that we would, spend and hang out together. And then from Monday to Friday, I had a 9 to 5 and I was pulling like, 12-hour days. So it was tough. So in the beginning, it was like, "Hey, I got to shoot. You mind coming with me? I could really use your help," that sort of thing. And it sort of naturally evolved into sort of like a partnership. I definitely needed her. She was very new. She didn't know anything about cameras or photography or entrepreneurship in general. So we sort of like built our partnership together along at the same time, learning from our mistakes, trying new things, discovering new ventures or new ways to sort of generate income. It was an interesting time.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. You often don't hear that, or you'll hear you often really just don't hear it. It just like naturally flows into a beautiful relationship and business partnership. So I think that that's beautiful to even hear about and be able to witness. So
Well, it
kudos
was
to
tough.
y'all.
It was tough.
Oh yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's beautiful today, right? It's beautiful
Right.
today. But it was definitely tough. Me personally, I was real passionate about my business. I was real passionate about being a creative. And then,
Mm,
you have someone who is passionate about making you succeed, but not necessarily as passionate about the task at hand. I would eat, sleep, breathe photography and creating and sort of creative elements. I would try to find creativity anywhere. We would be in a car going somewhere, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you gonna stop the car to like take a picture to like remember this place for a client that you don't even have right now? Uh, we're going on vacation," and I like always have my camera with me. She's like, "Are we going on vacation or is this like a photo shoot?" And I'm like, "Why can't it be both?" You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was tough for both of us. I'm not even gonna lie. It was growing pains initially. I would say probably for the first like half of we've been doing this for like 16 years, I think, about now. So like it was tough for the first 5 years, I would say. Just trying to get our bearings and try to like figure out our path, what our roles are, how we're comfortable, her allowing me to be me in the spaces that I need to thrive in. And then also her just allowing her to see at her own pace. You know what I mean?
mm,
Two people are not going to be on the same. For us specifically, we weren't going to be on the same space gradually. Like I've been doing photography since I was 14 years old, right? Like, and she met me doing it,
right.
so I could. I mean, now looking back, it'd be foolish for me to expect her to have the same enthusiasm that I had earlier on. So it was definitely some growing pains for sure.
So at what point were you guys in your business when you guys decided to get married? Like would you guys start as business partners and then you led into marriage, or was it marriage and then business partners?
It was marriage came second. So
Okay.
actually, let me take that back. Let me take that back. So she was always my like, she started off coming and helping and then came out to be like my assistant. In between that, sort of like assistant transitional period, we got married in between that. And then it wasn't
Mm.
up until probably like 2 years after I got married. I think yeah, we had a conversation. I was like, listen, I got all these second shooters I'm using for these weddings and they're great, but like you can do this. Like you can absolutely do this. And she was like, "Yes, I want to do it." So we had a conversation and about 2 years into our marriage and decided that, she would be my full-time second photographer.
Ooh. Okay, so what does that look like being okay, so now that you guys are business partners, that means y'all
Hmm.
together a lot. Y'all are shooting
Yeah.
together, y'all are home together. How
Hmm.
did you have to find that balance, or what did you guys do to still be able to protect the union you guys have as a married couple?
Balance? Is that I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know what balance is. For us, we were pretty young. We were in our 20s. So w no children, finding that balance, there are pockets for that. Like you being intentional. We love to travel. We found a passion in traveling and doing new things. And especially if you don't have any children, like you can pick up and go anywhere. Like we would just be like, hey, I found a flight. I found a flight. It's cheap, but we got to drive all the way to New Jersey to get on the plane. I'm like, all right, let's do it. And we would just go. We would have to be really intentional with our balance because we're with each other all the time. So I joke about bringing cameras and on vacations and things like that. This is absolutely true. But being intentional about having the time where you're not necessarily working and you're not necessarily like trying to get your next gig and making plans for the future in terms of business, we definitely did that. We definitely like made sure that we are not gonna we're not gonna just be workers and we're just not gonna just be partners and then that's the only thing that we're do. We have to find a balance in terms of what our passions are, and we did that.
Beautiful, beautiful. When it came to deciding to expand your family, what was that conversation like for both of you guys, being that you guys live together, you're working together, so your
Mhm.
income is together? What was that plan of, okay, if we want to go into this, what is that going to look like for us as well as our business?
You know, that's a canned question because we never really had that conversation. We knew we wanted children, and we just like it was like, all right, let's just wait until like a year after we get married, then we'll start planning. And then a year came, and then 2 years came, and three, and then there was no kid. There was like no child, and we were trying. It was just we were really confused, and at that point, it's like there is no question like what is going on. And then series of surgeries and things like that, and then going to see doctors and all that. And then we had our child. So there was no like, okay, this is what we're going to do. No, we knew very early on that we wanted to have children very early. I won't say very early, a year after our marriage, and then we would take it from there. And that's why I said it's a canned question because I can't answer it
So,
fully.
right. So, well, let's go back a little bit, if you don't mind diving a little bit into
Sure.
that. What was that like, trying and having to try harder, from from a man's perspective and being that support system? What did you find that you had to do to support your wife going through that process?
Man, so first off, it was for me, I could not imagine what women go through emotionally. That's number one. I mean, you're going through the process of trying to have a child, and you really don't have a diagnosis in terms of why it's not happening naturally. It becomes sort of like schooling. You have to educate yourself on, the different reasons why. Once you find out why, that's just half of the equation. We sort of took on a completely different emotional role in our marriage where it wasn't just our love for each other, but it had to be a safe space and comforting and sort of understanding. My wife, one time we went to see the doctor, one of the very first times we went to see the doctor, I had no idea what was going on. I was like, yeah, it's not me. I'm completely fine. All good. And then the conversation, the doctor just like looks at me. He's like, well, the man could be the problem as well. And I'm just like, and it's just like, and my wife automatically sort of looked at me and was just like, babe, you're fine. Everything's good. We'll just figure out what the reason is. In knowing her and looking at her, she's just like worried about what the future might hold and what it might mean for us as people who want to have children. I had to become someone who I've never been in my life, a supporting husband for I'm not gonna say this. I was gonna say something crazy, but no, I'm not gonna say it. But I had to be a supporting husband, and I think that was really important for me. Not really wanting to do that, but really important for me as a supporting husband for the future, not knowing that, early in your life, in your 20s, you're going to go through things. In your 30s, it might be even worse. In your 40s, it might be even worse than that. So it was like a perfect evolution for me to have to deal with. Unfortunately, we had to deal with it, but I mean, we have a beautiful blessing today. But having to deal with learning how to comfort my wife when you can't really see what the future might hold.
Mm. And I think that's something that a lot of men aren't having that conversation of what that looks like, and especially
Hmm.
what that support looks like, because when you don't know how to support your wife through something that she's never experienced before. You
Hmm.
don't know how to support your wife because you don't it's hard, it may be hard for her to communicate what she's feelings or things like that. And I think that that's something that, especially when it comes to marriage or partnership, that we don't really realize when we first get into marriage or get into
Hmm.
dating, that you're going to evolve and you guys are going to reach roles that you may have never predicted, and you have to figure out how to
Hmm.
get through it together. And I think that that's thank you for sharing that, and just being transparent with that. That's beautiful, beautiful. So go ahead.
It's really hard for men to sort of understand what women go through. Like, we're not educated. No one tells us like, one day there might be an issue and you're gonna need to be the backbone for her for this issue that you just have no idea how what the future might hold. Which, I mean, thankfully we had an amazing supporting cast. Like, our parents were great. They would, fly to us, they would come to us. They were every surgery, every doctor's visit, or anything like that. And thankfully, I saw what my family could be and what my
Mm,
family was, which really helped me to be a really supporting husband. I can't imagine if I had to, you know, lay the burden of every single visit, I mean, I did go to every single visit, but be there alone and supporting. I mean, there was one time where my
okay.
wife had a surgery where they had to move one of her tubes. And we went into the surgery, and the doctor's job, what he told us would be that he would just clean the tubes up. If he had to, we would just remove the one tube. And we're talking about fallopian tubes. And I'm at the hospital, we're waiting surgery. My mom's there, her mom's there. And I get a call from from one of the nurses. She's like, hey, the doctor wants to speak to you. And I'm like, is she out of surgery yet? And he's like, no, she's still in surgery. Now I'm freaking the hell out. And he's like, hey, Josh, so I just want to let you know, I've gone in and that tube was, one tube was bad. I repaired that. It was beyond repair, but I'm gonna have to remove the next one as well. And I lost it because my wife and I never talked about removing both of her tubes. We never talked about what that would mean for us. We went into it with, sort of like a very narrow mindset and thinking like, okay, this is where it's gonna be. This is how it is. We'll just go in, we'll do what we need to do and leave. But obviously, with medical situations, things can change very, very quickly. I didn't know how to handle that. I was bawling because now my wife is under. She's not awake, and I have to make a decision based off of her health that we did not discuss, nor could we even had. I mean, at that point, we didn't know. My supporting cast, my mom is there, and I'm just like, "Ma, what do I do?" She's like, "Tell that doctor what you want." I was like, "Okay, doc, listen, I didn't speak with my wife about this, and she gonna be hella pissed at me if she wake up and she don't got both her tubes. I need you to do your best job at the other tube and do what you said that you were going to do." He was
Mm,
like, "All right, but if I can, I'm gonna take." I was like, "Do what you said that you want to do." And thankfully for my mom, who just sort of was just like, "Josh, you know what you got to do. You have to be firm and just not let people sort of do anything." And that sort of like helped me through. Like, I'm not a strong husband on my own. That's ridiculous. We're strong because of the people who we have around us, because of circumstances that we've been around and we've gone through in the past. So I can't take credit for being a strong husband right off the bat. I really do have to thank my family for that.
That's beautiful, and thank you for sharing that. So I wanna dive a little bit into going through this process. You guys work together. So
Mhm.
what did that look like for your work going through that transition of the trying, the surgeries? What did you guys have to do in order to still be able to provide financially during that time?
It was business as usual. I mean, from the outside looking in, no one knew. I mean, like most people, you don't really know what trials and tribulations they're going through. It was really just business as usual, the hustle, the grind. My wife is a strong person. She worked throughout, and we eventually got pregnant about a year, maybe a year and a half later. And she worked through that as well, up until probably about 7, 8 months. She was still grinding, still by my side, and we made it work.
That's beautiful. That's so did you ever tell her, "Okay, now it's time for you to sit down?"
Oh, absolutely. Listen, she would be still working, and I'd be like, "I got this. You ain't got to do nothing." But it was great still having her there. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't
Right.
even have to I wouldn't go to work. I mean, I was still traveling. I remember going to like the Caribbean and going overseas, and her being pregnant. It was great having her there as long as she could travel, and not necessarily having to worry because you worry about your loved ones, you worry about everything. So I don't have to send a text. I could just look over like, hey, you good? Like you take
She's
it a little
good.
bit too crazy right now. Have a seat.
And I think that's funny because, like, my husband's Caribbean, and that's how he didn't like that I was working throughout the pregnancy, and I remember my last job, I was 37 weeks, he's like, "I'm coming to set with you," and I'm like
37 is crazy.
yeah, I was like, "It's the
37
last
is crazy.
job." They brought a couch for me. It was real comfortable, but he was like, "I'm coming," and I'm like, "I don't want you here," but he came anyway, and he just, like, looking like a security guard, just said, like,
He
"You
got to
good,
protect you.
you
That's his
good." Yeah.
job.
And I think it's beautiful now that I look back on it, okay, I'm grateful, I'm thankful. Yeah, but I'm like, "Boy, I got this. I know," like you said, like, when you're worrisome, you wanna be able to look over and know that your wife is good, the baby's
Yeah.
good, that everything is going good. Beautiful.
Shout out to your husband.
Thank you. So, what did it look like? So, you have your beautiful baby girl. What was that maternity leave process for you and your wife? Did you guys have one? Did y'all plan one? Did y'all slow down with work? What did that look like?
We entrepreneurs, sis.
Right.
Maternity leave is tough. So my wife definitely did. She had a maternity leave. So she didn't work for probably about 4-ish months, I think. I worked throughout. I think I took maybe a few weeks off. We planned that because obviously, you don't really know when the baby's coming. You don't really know what's going to happen. But I think I worked up until the week before she delivered a week early. I literally remember going to DC for a wedding and just watching my phone, making sure because that was within that 2-week window that the baby can come. And the baby came a week after that, which was crazy. But for her, I mean, being an entrepreneur, thankfully we can decide how she feels fit enough to go back to work. So I mean, that choice is hers. She says, "Hey Josh, I'm ready to work, then we gonna get at it." I would never, bring her back if she didn't need to. Thankfully, being a photographer, and you can call on your peers, you can call on your friends, like, "Yo, I got it. I got some help. Bro, you was at my baby shower a couple months ago. Can you help me out? Because I just had this baby." So the network really came through. I have a bunch of friends who came in for me. I mean, at that point, we had associate photographer and things like that. So we can pull from a pool of photographers if we need it, and give my wife the adequate rest that she needed, that she required.
That's beautiful. Going into now that you guys have this beautiful baby girl, were there any things that you had to do? Because as entrepreneurs, we also love to work. Like it's different
Hmm.
when it's an entrepreneur and you don't enjoy your job, but we actually love
Hmm.
what we do and we love the hustle, right? So were there anything that you guys had to start to implement within your business to balance being a parent? Like, did you have to start setting any boundaries or were there any rules or obligations like we're not doing this going forward? Did you have to do any of that transition within your business?
Nah, I don't think so. Nah, I don't think there were any real boundaries. I think honestly, I got hot. My daughter got born. I got really hot. So it was like we would take everything on. We would take almost anything on. We had destination weddings. My daughter would be there. She has 11 stamps in her passport from other countries. But she was flying everywhere. And it was great because she's under 2. She fly for free. We would just, we'd bring a nanny, we'd bring my sister, we'd bring her mother, my mother, we'd bring somebody along to watch my daughter with us. But when we took everything and we took the jobs because we knew that we had a village around us that would support us. So, I mean, I don't think we had any, crazy boundaries.
But I think that's even a good note, like knowing that you can still travel with your child, bring your child to jobs, and just bring that extra help if needed. Because I think sometimes, especially like me in this new season, I've been blessed to hear other photographers say that. So that's what I started implementing. Like, okay, if I'm doing a travel job, someone has to come with me to help with the baby,
Mhm.
and know that it's okay to do that versus like, okay, now I gotta leave her at home and try to figure those things out. But knowing that there are options that you can still bring your child and allow them to enjoy the fruits of your labor in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's great when especially when they're young. I'm sure you don't want to leave your daughter. You don't wanna not necessarily be there. You wanna focus and you wanna concentrate on the task at hand. So, having her nearby, knowing that you can see her, like, right after shoot or if you have any breaks or anything like that, I'm sure that helps you. I'm sure that helps your peace of mind for sure.
Yes, for sure, for sure, for sure. So now that your daughter's older, what has that looked like being entrepreneurs and her being able to witness you guys in that space? So, with you having a beautiful 11-year-old, what is that like for her to witness both of her parents following in their dreams and doing what they love in entrepreneurship?
That's a funny question. I think about it a lot. I think and I hope for the future that it means that she understands that she can have autonomy. That it's not necessarily uh, a rigged game in terms of having to buy into something or somebody else's dream. My wife is currently right now a jewelry designer, so she has her own business as well, called Earring Envy. Shout out to Earring Envy, short plug. And my daughter sees that, like, we go to pop up shops. My wife packs her. We get orders online. My wife's packing her jewelry. She sees my wife designing earrings. She knows about trips to manufacturers. She sees us going on weddings. She comes with us to shoots. We currently have a studio now, so whenever there's an opportunity for us to be in studio, she wants to be there because she wants to either help out or see what's going on. So for me, what I hope this exposes her to is that she understands that there's autonomy. She understands what a typical 9 to 5 job would be, a doctor, lawyer, civil servant, whatever. She understands those things, but to have a firsthand understanding of what the entrepreneur does, that she uses that to decide how she wants to move and create a future for herself.
That's beautiful. So, is there any advice that you would give to a father who may be going into this transition of fatherhood who is a creative? Is there any piece of advice you would want to give to them?
I would say don't stop. I think your creativity for me, experiencing it, like I had this sort of like creative boom once my daughter was born. Sort of having a child, you take a step back. You sort of like look at the grand scheme of things that seem so important yesterday. Now that you have a child, it seems extremely trivial. Um, and then being a creative, I was able to create with my child. I was able to use a camera or use my daughter as a focal point in something that wasn't a focal point before. And, when there are new focal points as a creative, you can either, run from it or you can sort of embrace it. I think all photographers or all creatives should embrace new things in their lives from a creative standpoint as well. We see it a lot with everything. Like, when someone's sick or terminal, they use that as opportunities to expand their audiences and navigate people through it. We see people when they buy a new house, they become creative in that aspect. Or if you have like a very small task or hobby, people sort of be creative with that. So I think having a child, not to use it as a creative tool because a child isn't, but for new fathers and people who are new to the game, let that be another creative outlet, especially if you're a photographer, if you're a painter, if you're a cinematographer. A child could be a new avenue to open up what your creativity is currently and broaden your horizons to whatever new might come in the future.
And how has fatherhood shaped your entrepreneurship journey? Like, has it shifted the way that you see? Like, I know for me, it shifts the way that I see my creativity, but also my time is more valuable now that I have a
Mm,
daughter. So,
yeah.
how has fatherhood shifted the way that you even see like your business as a whole?
I don't want to play around no more. The money seems way more important now for sure than it was before. Like, you're in your 20s and it's just like, working, you're making this money. But when you have a child and they're growing up, now the income becomes that much more the income is much more important.
Point.
Every job, I don't want to say it's life or death, but it holds weight because you're not necessarily just providing for yourself or your partner, you're providing for someone else who can't provide for themselves. So, I would, a client wants to do a shoot and it's like an hour shoot, I'd spend an extra like half an hour sometimes. Now nah, I gotta go. I got a
Right.
kid. I'm not getting paid for this. Like, what is happening? So I think for sure, like you sort of prioritize different things, and time is one of those things that you prioritize more than anything else once you have a child.
And then lastly, still showing up as a husband. We can't leave that part out. So, what was something that you had to learn now that you have a child, how to still balance or make time to be a husband and not just focus on fatherhood and focusing on your daughter?
I had to learn the very hard lesson that although she looks like Superwoman, my wife is not Superwoman, and that help is not a suggestion, it is a requirement. I mentioned that my wife also has her jewelry line as well, and she's a mom, and moms do so much. Personally, like I had to like suck it up and just do a lot of things that I wasn't doing. I didn't have to do before. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. I had to do a lot of things. And go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
It's not like, and it's not very difficult things either. It's not things that are like outside of my wheelhouse. I just didn't have to do them before. My wife was like very willingly doing certain things before, but like as our daughter gets older, as responsibilities change, we have to take her to acting class or we have to take her to like swimming or whatever, having to do more of those things that we didn't even have to think about before. We didn't have to do any of those things before, as well as now cooking, as well as now taking care of the household much more. I'm having to do more as a dad because, we're both entrepreneurs. We both work and we both have this child. So for me as a father and husband, I mean, it's not even just like one job. Like, because I could certainly just be a father, that ain't gonna work though. And I could certainly just be a husband, and that ain't gonna work either. I mean, it's a two I have two jobs in this household. I love them.
Yeah. If you need help. No, just
No, in all seriousness.
but I think that's beautiful because I love that you said that although my wife looks like Superwoman, she's not, right? And I think
Hmm.
that's a testament to a lot of women where we're so used to being seen as strong that it's hard for our significant others to realize when we need that support or when we need that help. Cause it's like, oh yeah, she got it because we're so
Yeah,
used to always getting it, but not realizing that at some point it's like, mama tired. She
yeah.
like she
And then it's one thing to acknowledge it. It's like for me, it's just like, okay, all right, you tired. Like, okay, what do I do? Like like early on, I just felt like helpless. Like I'm just like, all right, so do I just order food or how? And then it's like, oh nah, bruh, you gotta get in the kitchen. You gotta do something. You gotta do something else because understanding that, like, the burden of having to, I know we talking about Father's Day, but the burden of having to be a mother it's it's so difficult. I had no idea. I had no idea, but seeing all the things that, she has to do, the things I don't even think about, um, things she's complaining to me about, like, "You guys don't even clean the bathroom after yourselves, like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that." It's
So
tough.
so I wanna ask, so for any man who is listening to this, who does not like, who's going experiencing or going through that transition where they're not really noticing those things, what would you get? Because it's not like we learned this in the schools, like, okay, the wife does this, the husband does this, you're gonna experience
Yeah.
this together. We don't learn this until we're in the middle of it, and it's like, "Okay, we gotta figure this thing out," you know? So what would you
Mhm.
say to a man who's going through that transition that does not know how to support their wife in this transition or doesn't know who to ask for help?
My advice is tough, right? Because gender roles are something that can be different for each marriage or each relationship. So probably the conversation starts there. Like, are you guys subscribing to gender roles or what roles do you guys want to play in a household? And then even then, that conversation is ongoing. It isn't like, okay, this is your job and this is not my job, and I do this and I don't do that because we all change. We all have busy seasons. Things aren't necessarily always constant. So I think the roles that I played very early in our marriage, they're not the same roles that I'm playing, I'm having additional roles or I'm having less roles or like things definitely do change. So the advice that I would have, I would think I would say to any fathers in the situation, it'd be to have conversations and being very open about what you want to do or and being very communicative of or with your partner about what they do or what they want to do and how you guys can come together because I mean ultimately it's a partnership and if the partnership wins you win. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Like, as long as you guys can sort of put together a strategy on how to attack the day, whether it's like, yo, you got the kids and I got the house, or you focus on business and you focus on this project because it's pending. I got the household. I can do all of this other stuff. Don't worry about it. I think, once you're having those that communication about what you can handle and what you can do based on the season, because things do change I mean, that's the start of a recipe for success.
I love that. I love that. Having the tough conversations. I
Mhm.
love
And
that.
it
I
don't even
love
have to be
that.
tough. Like, I think true partnership starts with communication and open communication and being very transparent about what you can burden, what
Mm.
your shoulders can hold and what they can't, and there has to be some compromise in between.
That's beautiful. I think this is a great way to wrap that. Joshua, thank you again. Thank you for
No
sharing so many
problem.
gems because I
Thank you
think
for
this is an
having me.
amazing conversation. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for transparency. Thank you for the wisdom. Learn something in this. I got to tell my husband, you got to listen to this episode because Joshua said no, but
Don't do that. Don't do
no, but again, thank you so much for just being able to share. I know that so many men who listen to this are going to be able to learn from this journey and learn from your experience. So thank you and happy Father's Day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Baby Bump and Business. I hope today's conversation reminded you that you're not alone in this journey and that there's real strength in building something meaningful while showing up for your family. If you enjoyed this episode, take a moment to rate, review, or share it with another parent, creative, or entrepreneur who could use the encouragement. Your support helps this community grow and allows more stories like ours to be heard. To stay connected and get updates on new episodes and real conversations from parents in the creative space, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Baby Bump and Business. Until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and keep showing up for what really matters.